Claire, it's so nice to have you on the Kind Mind series again this week. Last week we talked about building resilience. So what are we going to be talking about this week?
Hi Jess, yeah, I'm glad to be talking with you this week. This is kind of part 2 of the resilience, and what we're doing is we're talking about loss and trauma and how to kind of keep ourselves feeling robust and resilient. And it's very close to my heart. Spent many years counselling people and helping them navigate real difficulties and challenges in their lives. So one thing I know for sure is that loss and trauma, it doesn't discriminate. You know, loss is inevitable and confronts everyone, normally at least a couple of times in their lifetime.
Yeah, and actually that in itself, I think, can be a really hard thing to accept and to get your head around. But I would imagine that it's actually essential for us to accept it so that we can start to understand how to deal with it. So as we're helping students deal with this loss or trauma, can you just help me understand a bit more about what we're referring to when we say loss and trauma?
Yeah, sure. So when we talk about loss, it could be through death of a loved one, which can be deeply traumatic for some people. But with others, it may just be an incredibly sad time. It doesn't need to be traumatic. And I think at the moment, to frame this into context of where we are at the moment with this pandemic, you know, loss is also touching all of us at the moment. It's the loss of our routine and life as we knew it. You know, many people's lives have been turned upside down. And there's a loss of physical connection with others. With friends and loved ones, and doing all the things that brought us a sense of our identity and a sense of value. So whether that's playing sport in a team or just hanging out with others and connecting, you know, this is all real loss for most of us. And then when we talk about trauma in relation to what we're looking at today now, maintaining resilience, I'm framing this as a traumatic event that disrupts our functioning, or traumatic injury, or the psychological cost of death.
Yeah.
Or if I think about our students, you know, some of our students will be working, you know, within the NHS with people who are very ill, and there's something very real about vicarious traumatization, which is where we as human beings almost absorb some of that trauma that we might witness. And so this is how I'm framing all of this kind of loss and trauma at the moment with this conversation that we're having.
Yeah. And I'd imagine that there's a lot of students listening right now who are going, yeah, that's me, that happened, or I'm experiencing that right now. And even I'm sitting here and can think of an example of myself when I was at university and was really unwell, and I had to leave university for a few months and go home. And, you know, that wasn't just being unwell, that was sort of loss of routine and loss of health, loss of friendships, and, you know, the prospect that I felt at the time of being able to get a good grade. And so, you know, no wonder that felt so difficult. Now that I'm sort of understanding from what you're saying that loss is so much more than what we naturally think it is. So, you know, that's an example in my own life. But as you were saying, given what's going on right now, I'm sure everyone is struggling with loss in their own way, or in some way right now. And all of these different forms of loss, whatever they are, whatever people might be struggling with, are all really valid right now. So I know it's a big question, but what can we do?
Yeah, that's a big question, isn't it? So the focus is on how do we build and sustain resilience in the face of so much loss and change of structure and routine, especially with this pandemic. So the loss of self, as it can feel with the social distancing and the months that we've had of feeling more isolated, it's a real loss of connection with others and friendships and family, or loss of the weekly pattern of life. And for many students, everything's been turned on its head and life is now altered as a result. So resilience is absolutely key. And resilience can be affected by our stress levels, our personality, or our prior exposure to loss and trauma, and also our beliefs. So this could be around our beliefs around justice, what's right and wrong. So many people have been affected by world events recently, And maybe for some of us, this has really touched our beliefs and it impacts our resilience. It stirs up within us emotions and thoughts that we may have. So where something has touched you, sometimes it kind of wakes you up. You have to check yourself out. You have to check your views, your beliefs. You have to educate yourself. And all of that is growth. So here we are turning our frustration or our anger or our hurt into strength and resilience. And that's bouncing back for what we know to be true. And that's collective resilience. It's having a voice. And the way I think about us is, you know, we are born to attach, not detach and hate.
Yeah. So as we're talking about these difficult, challenging, traumatic circumstances that can turn pain into change, I'm just thinking about those students who have experienced a lot of difficulty in their life. You know, those students who have maybe been exposed to a lot of loss. Would this affect their resilience?
Yeah, that's a good point. So working with people as a counsellor now for many years, I noticed that there is something about cumulative loss or trauma. And I do believe as a therapist that the body and our minds do keep score. So when we've been through many difficult times and we haven't healed or given ourselves time to process or make sense of it, it does kind of build up within us and it compromises or it takes a toll on our resilience. And when this happens, I see that then a person can more easily feel like they can't cope.
Yeah.
Or their previous coping strategies just aren't working well enough. So I suppose it would be worth students, just as I've said that, to really think about themselves and think, is that true of me?
Yeah. And that just makes a lot of sense, which is why I guess it's so important, as you're saying, to let yourself feel and heal. So let's talk about those people who are in it right now. They are wading through the loss, the trauma, the grief. What's going to help them? How can they feel like they're getting through, like they are able to keep hold of or develop some sort of resilience?
So I think whether you're experiencing a very difficult time at the moment, either through bereavement or just feeling more isolated, and this has brought up a loss from the past maybe, or a loss of routine and life as you knew it, I'd encourage you to kind of listen on to what we're going to say here, because this could be very, very relevant for you. I hear a lot of students say to me, I can't go through this again, this pain again, or how long does this last, or I can't remember life and me before all of this. Yeah. And these are all really big questions. They're very important questions. And what I would say to each and every student that's listening is this is all about being human. Yeah. The way that we experience life and loss and grief, it isn't the same for everyone. Yeah. So there are not neat, tidy stages that we all go through like a conveyor belt. And certainly the research over the last kind of 8 to 10 years has certainly confirmed this. So what we do know is that you can live and grieve at the same time. And I would also suggest that it's about distraction when you can. So allowing yourself to feel. Yeah. And to kind of process and to think about how you're feeling and to allow yourself time to do that. You don't need to dive into the deep end with all the grief and the loss and drown in it. Yeah. So you do need some distractions. So try to distract yourself with some routine, some reaching out to others, and allow the good in. You know, on the other hand, if you keep yourself so busy with no space to reflect and breathe, you'll burn out. So self-care is really key here. What I notice through counselling lots and lots of people over the years is that resilient people are not free from pain. They feel it and they allow themselves to feel. They give themselves permission to feel very distressed and angry and the mass of it, but they can pick themselves up and still function. Maybe not quite as before, but they can get through the day.
Yeah. And that image of a conveyor belt just feels really on point, that we just can't deal with the loss and trauma in stages and, you know, complete one and tick one off and move on to the next.
Yeah.
So it's really refreshing to hear that it's about grieving and living simultaneously. So this means feeling the sadness, the pain and the grieving, but also, because you are still doing that living part, you know, allowing yourself to feel the other more normal stuff. You know, perhaps you are feeling happy as well, but that's okay. Is that right?
Yeah. I mean, the one thing that I think is really important is sadness. You know, here it's effective to allow yourself to feel sad. It's okay to feel sad.
Yeah.
Because sadness is actually, with all the latest research, is actually been proven to be effective. It helps us through tough times to cope with grieving and with the loss of pandemic, you know, as life as we knew it before. So I think it appears to work. It's got a function to feel sad, which sounds very strange, doesn't it? If we turn our attention inwards, which is what happens when we feel sad, we reflect and we slow down and we take stock. And there's a phrase that comes to mind, which is sadder but wiser. So we, in turning the attention inwards and slowing down, we face up to the loss or the grief or the person that isn't there, or the loss of routine, or the loss of our life as we knew it before. And that is a good thing, because it helps us to process and to take stock. Okay. And we need to give ourselves permission to take back the joy as well, you know, to laugh and to smile and give ourselves a moment of joy. Students say to me, I feel guilty when I have a joyful moment, or when I've been laughing a lot, you know, when I've forgotten to think about the loved one who's passed, or a friend or a family member who's died.
Yeah.
And remember, you know, emotions can feel very intense, but they come and go, just like the waves. I mentioned about waves and resilience in our last part 1 of resilience.
Yeah.
And that's very important here. Emotions can feel like waves. You've got to breathe into them and know that a lot of them will pass, and then something will come after. So sadness isn't a steady state. Okay. It comes and goes. And joy and a little bit of laughter as well isn't a steady state. It comes and goes.
Yeah.
But we need to allow ourselves to connect to others, to laugh and to smile. We claim a bit of that joy.
Yeah.
And if you have experienced the death of a loved one, they would have wanted you to laugh and to smile, not drown in the sadness. So it's important at the moment, I think, with all of us, to have some joy in our lives and to give ourselves permission for that.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like what you're saying is just so important for us to hear right now, given what's going on in the world. And it's, you know, similarly, it's confusing at the moment to sort of sit at home and feel both worried and scared and sad about all the loss that's going on in the world right now, whilst also feeling other feelings, whether that's, you know, feeling grateful for things in your life, having that time to reflect, maybe feeling relief about something, or joy about being able to spend some time at home with your loved ones. But what you're saying is we have to give ourselves permission to feel both these things, and that's what helps us move forward.
Yes, definitely. It's about reframing. So this doesn't mean minimize the pain, or, you know, run as fast as you can away from the pain.
Yeah.
It's to put it into another frame or another context. It's about self-compassion, allow some good in, to see the rest of reality, and to seek gratitude for the life that you have and for those still in your life.
Yeah. So that makes sense. So reframing our experiences. I guess it's so easy to focus on loss and trauma as something that simply harms us and causes us pain. But it sounds like what you're talking about and what you're suggesting are that there are ways of using our difficult experiences to grow.
Yeah. Absolutely, Jess. And I think at the moment, there'll be many students, many people just watching this, that are reevaluating themselves, their lives.
Yeah.
I hear that a lot at the moment over the last kind of 3-4 months. And that is healthy. So first of all, really hear that this is a healthy process, not something to avoid. It's part of change.
Yeah.
And it can feel like a bit of a wake-up call. You've kind of woken up to your life when you start reevaluating things. And I'm not, I hear a lot of students say to me, I'm not happy with my life.
Yeah.
And maybe I shouldn't be thinking that. And I do say to them, no, that's great. You're thinking about it, which means you need to be considering it. And it's a healthy process so really embrace it. And, if you are struggling at all with any of these kind of issues that you're facing and you're reevaluating your life and it feels very overwhelming, I really would encourage any Imperial student to come and to make an appointment and talk with one of us, with one of the counsellors in confidence, and we can help you, figure stuff out, figure life out at the moment, and give your life maybe a different purpose. In terms of helping you to realign where you are at the moment and realize your strengths and your talents, as difficult as they may feel. And I would encourage any student thinking of this to reframe it as a kind of growth phase and to seize it and kind of lean into it and to get some support to really make sense of it. And the expression that I hear a lot here is, you can fall up, not fall down, which I think is really important.
Yeah, that's a really nice expression. So what you're saying is don't avoid this growth phase. We need to embrace it and move through it.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, there are real highs and lows of feeling all the mix of emotions that will be coming at the moment for most students and most of us as human beings. And also, feeling psychological pain is and difficult emotions is really painful and difficult and challenging. And notice if you're dealing with some of the difficult emotions with maybe negative coping strategies, if you're drinking too much or you're using drugs or you're using unfulfilling sex as a distraction. There are many things that humans turn to dull pain, but what I would say is it's just a distraction, and you will always wake up to yourself. So you've got to have some self-compassion at the moment, and the punitive, critical kind of inner voice does get louder during this time. So I would encourage students to surround themselves with friends, and if you don't have any friends at all or anybody in your life that you would feel would show care or love to you, then again get in touch with the counselling service, come and talk with one of us, and we'll help you through this. So you're not alone at the moment. And I think with this self-compassion, we need to start caring for ourselves and loving ourselves if we can, and acknowledging loss. It doesn't make it better, it doesn't diminish it, but pain is normal, and sometimes I think we can be very fearful of it. It's not something that people talk about, but we should talk about it, and then we will begin to have a little more confidence within ourselves. And we need to really face the reality, if we have lost somebody through death, of the person that we have lost and how we are feeling, then avoid it. So we start sort of developing some sort of more cohesive narrative, or we start to process it, and in the process we start to heal. So I think that's really important at the moment, to be thinking about that.
So being able to develop a cohesive narrative is something that's really important. Do you have any other practical tips on how we can build resilience in the face of loss and trauma?
Yes, Jess, there are 8 points here that I think would be useful to students that are listening. So hopefully with those students that are listening, if one of these is useful to you, then that's great. First of all, I think with loss and with difficult times, our bodies really tend to feel that. And that could be increased levels of adrenaline, or cortisol, and that's not good for us to be feeling that and immersing ourselves in that 24/7.
No.
So, you know, that's the flight or fight response sometimes, and we need to move the body to release that. So I think, first of all, the first one is, as I mentioned in the Resilience Part 1 videos, is think about what helps you and what's harming you at the moment. And it might be worth, if the students haven't, you know, watched Part 1 Resilience, to go back and to watch that, because in there I put some hints and tips about that. But really think for yourselves what is helping you at the moment and what is harming you. Number 2, if you want to increase your mental strength, you need to think about exercise and eating well. You need to get back your routine. And mental strength, you know, it's about training your brain to think differently and countering the unhealthy beliefs about yourself. Maybe we're uncomfortable with our feelings and we're trying to escape it, but this, just as I said earlier, prolongs the pain. And you have to go through the pain to gain the confidence to know how to survive it. When we blame others and that hold us back, you know, the only person that we really should compare ourselves to is to ourselves yesterday. And take every day as it comes. So unhealthy views about the world as well. You know, maybe we want the world to be fair. We want the world to owe us, but it doesn't work like that. And once we start facing up to that, that can be quite liberating. You know, our world is what we make of it. And we still need to believe that we can change it. And we do have mental strength, or we start to develop that more. And it starts with one small step at a time. And we start thinking, what are my maybe unhealthy beliefs? What is holding me back? We start to reclaim more of ourselves and our lives, which is really very, very healthy. Number 3 is listen to your thoughts and your feelings, and talk with a friend, or talk with a counsellor, or talk with somebody that can help you and support you. And maybe write down how you're feeling. I'm all for kind of expressive, you know, psychological kind of journaling, and to write down every day how you're feeling and to kind of dump it down and to make some sort of sense of it. And it helps to express some of the stuck emotions inside of ourselves and helps us to get a sense more of ourselves. Number 4 is create your new routine that will work for you. To try and compartmentalize your day, maybe into sections, to keep a bit of separateness. And that will allow you to kind of reconnect with yourself, and so you don't lose yourself. So you're not immersing yourself totally in work or totally in one thing. So I think that's important. Number 5, I think in the aftermath of difficult times, you know, or maybe we kind of detach. I know we do detach. And so in that detachment, what I notice with many students is we reduce our search for meaning in the world. Our mood becomes very, very low, maybe become very depressed. We stop caring, or we worry more. And with the worry, sometimes we're ruminating. You know, we've got a lot of thoughts. We're really preoccupied with worry and stress. So we need to develop our coping and our emotional flexibility. So emotional flexibility for me is all about self-compassion. To think about, this might sound crazy, but to really think about what could have been worse. If we're projecting onto the world a lot of loss and a lot of heartache, is to really think, well, what could have been worse? That's not to minimize the pain, but it's to reframe it. So that would be point 5. Point 6 is our self-confidence. You know, talking to a lot of students and students recently this week, where there is a common theme about a lot of people's self-confidence has taken a real bashing at the moment. So because of having more kind of isolation or social distancing, loss of routine. And so what I'm seeing is a lot of kind of issues with crisis of confidence. So I would encourage you, like we spoke about in Resilience Part 1, is to start thinking about benefit finding, to start looking for things each day to be thankful for, or just 3 things each day. Like, I got out of bed, I've brushed my teeth, I've had some food,
Mm-hmm.
I'm watching these videos, you know, there we are, 3 things. Surround yourself as well with some love or with caring people.
Mm-hmm.
And if you haven't got that, then, you know, within our service, we're running Online Connect, which is a support group, and that is running for all Imperial students. And you can just drop into that and just come and you know, sit with other students virtually. And we have one of our mentors, one of our counsellors facilitating that group, and that's a great place for connection and for kind of this collective resilience. Number 7 is distraction versus feeling. So get the balance right with not overly feeling and immersing yourself and wallowing in overwhelming feelings, but don't distract yourself so much that you're burning yourself out and you are not allowing any time to process. So balance with distraction and feeling. And I think number 8, lastly, my long exhaustive list, is respect your feelings. So sounds simple, a little bit more complicated, because I want really the students that are listening to this to acknowledge for themselves how they're feeling, to take ownership for how you're feeling. So it's okay to be happy. You know, if you're feeling jealous, you know, about somebody that maybe has a parent, if you've lost a parent, or has a structure or routine, or is really working very, very well at the moment, and you're not, you're really struggling, you know, just acknowledge how you're feeling, because when you acknowledge how you're feeling, that awareness is the first step of change. Mm-hmm. So it helps you to start reclaiming your life.
Goodness, so much good stuff in there. And quite a few of those things that you mentioned involve, you know, surrounding yourself with others or reaching out to someone. Is this the sort of collective resilience you mentioned?
Yeah, it's that might be a new word for a lot of people, but I think it's really key at the moment, because you talk about resilience, but at the moment collective resilience is where it's at. So, you know, this is about surrounding yourselves with people that can help you. So we can not only try to build resilience for ourselves, but sometimes it may feel more difficult to do this. So collective resilience is key. So building resilience together, there's a powerful connection when we allow ourselves to really make contact with others, with people around us, and to link into and ask for support. And if we haven't got people like that we can link into, again, reach out to, you know, the counselling service, reach out to your personal tutor, your supervisor. There's lots of support helplines on our website to help students. So, you know, have a look at those. There's the online support group that we're running as well. So, you know, at the moment, collective support and resilience is really key.
And whilst we're talking about it, I would like to ask, on behalf of those students who have a friend or someone going through a really difficult time and seeking support from them, you know, how can they best do this? What's your advice for those doing the supporting?
That's a really good point, Jess. I think there's a real importance in knowing what to say to support others when they're going through a difficult time of loss. And students do say to me often, I don't know what to say to my friend or someone who's going through a really difficult time. And therefore, really, I think I should say nothing. And they go off that friend's radar. And my answer is, you can't remind someone of their loss who may be suffering just by bringing it up and saying, how are you? I think we sometimes overuse the word, how are you? And if you're having a crappy day, it's probably the worst thing to ask. So I think, you know, just picking up the phone or, you know, Skyping, FaceTiming, texting, whatever, just kind of saying hi, you know, fancy having lunch together, whether it's kind of meeting up with your social distancing or, you know, remotely over Teams or whatever, is important. So for me, the phrase show up is key here. So what I mean by that is, be a friend who shows up for somebody else rather than doing nothing. So I think we all need to learn as human beings to show up more. We all need to do more of this showing up for each other, for work colleagues, through through peers, through friends, for family. And again, that's collective resilience, isn't it, as well?
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, I like that phrase, showing up. And I think it gets people through difficult times when you're just simply there. It feels like we've covered a lot today. So before we wrap up, do you have any sort of last thoughts or anything else you'd like to share with the students?
I think at the moment, it's a big subject, isn't it, what we've been covering? But I think that, loss, tragedy, heartache, difficult times, the way that would be useful for all of us to be thinking about this is it can jolt us. It can jolt us in our self-awareness about how we're feeling. We need to listen to ourselves, and it can force us to really at the moment find some purpose. We can be in a bad relationship with ourselves or with our studies or with our life at the moment. And so to just kind of check in with ourselves, get that deeper connection, can really give us the data, can give us the information of the stuff that we need to change or to get more support with. And then we can really soar. We can, give ourselves the gift of living in a purpose and be the person we want to be and discover ourselves. So at the moment, this is a time of a lot of loss, a lot of mixed emotion, a lot of challenges. But as well, when we take a deeper look at ourselves, we can really start to turn things around and to get the support or to give ourselves the help that we need.
So giving yourself the gift of living in purpose is such a lovely way to phrase it. And as Claire has mentioned, the counsellors and the service is here if there is anyone who would like to talk to someone who's been watching this. So you can contact us via our email, which is on our website, and we'd be very happy to talk to you. And do email us if you have any feedback about the series so far. That would be great. We love to hear from you. And join us in our next episode where we're going to be talking about sleeping easy. So thanks, Claire, for sharing all your wonderful wisdom with us on resilience. It's been so useful to chat to you about this, and I'm sure there are students out there who found it really useful too. So thanks very much.
Thanks, Jess.